Spotlight is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. It seeks to spotlight people, places, and events from around the Diocese of Youngstown that promote the new gospel of joy called for by Pope Francis. Your program host is Father James Corda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk with the Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown. And joining me is Sister Regina Rogers and Sister Norma Raupple. It's such a pleasure to have you both on the show today.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
And I know we're going to hear some wonderful things about the Ursulines that are near and dear to our hearts here in the diocese and beyond. And perhaps for the folks that are with us, we can give a little flavor for the history and the beginnings of your order.
Well, to talk about our beginnings, we have to go back to northern Italy in 1535, St. Angela Merici, who is our founder. And she founded the community on November 25th, 1535. And her goal was to fill a need. She saw that at the time, women only had two choices. They either were married or they entered a religious community, a monastery, and were cloistered. And she felt that there has to be a third option where you can commit your life to Christ and be in the world, not of the world, but be in the world. And so that's what the Ursuline Sisters were founded to do. Angela looked around and saw what the needs were, and that's where she directed her company, her followers. And down through the ages, we've been known as educators because that was a great need at the time, especially the education of women and young girls. Angela felt that if you educated a woman, you educated a family. So the Ursulines have always been known as educators, although that's not why she founded the community. From Angela's time, we go to France. The French Ursulines landed in Quebec, so they were the first religious women in North America in 1639. The French Ursulines also were the first religious women in the United States proper. They landed in New Orleans in 1727. The Youngstown Ursulines were founded from Cleveland and Toledo in 1874. We came at the request of Father Brown, pastor of St. Columba, to educate the children at St. Columba School. And from there, we ended up working in many of the developing Catholic schools at the time. Ursuline High School, Ursuline Academy, really, was founded in 1905 as a day school for girls. And as the notion of finding the need, both at St. Columba and Ursuline High School, nuns really only taught girls, but in both places we were asked to teach boys. So at St. Columba we started teaching boys, and in 1930 Ursuline High School admitted boys, and we started teaching boys, and that leads us to present-day Ursuline. So we've been in the Diocese of Youngstown, in the Youngstown area, for 140 years.
What I'd like to bring Sister Norma in on this now, the 1500s, translating that to the 21st century, how has that transformed the Ursulines in light of your charism, and how has that charism been continued over these many centuries?
Well, St. Angela really believed that you could be holy and still be involved. The call to holiness, she believed in contemplation and action and in responding to the needs of the times. And here, now our charism is the same. We base our service on responding to the needs of God's people. And we've been creative and flexible in moving from education in the schools into a variety of ministries. And most of them were inspired by individual sisters who, like we see as Angela, who had the courage, the relationships, the networking that she had, a woman that attracted others. And so we continue through all the centuries now we're trying to do our part, and it basically it was living the gospel. And we're trying to translate that into our times and respond to the needs of our times.
And of course, she dedicated her order to St. Ursula.
Yes.
Tell us about that, Sister.
St. Ursula was a very popular saint at the time of St. Angela Merici. She was a young woman who chose martyrdom over giving up her faith. So Angela's love of the faith certainly prompted her to dedicate the community to St. Ursula. That's why we're called Ursulines, after St. Ursula. Some people, when they see our names and they see OSU after them, always think Ohio State University, but it really means the Order of St. Ursula.
Sure. We're down to the last few minutes of our time for our first segment. Sister Norma, you alluded to some of the different ministries that the Ursuline sisters are engaged in. It's no longer just religious women in high schools and grade schools. So you've seen those ministries kind of develop over the years. And you had mentioned it's because particular women within the order have felt some kind of call to respond to that.
Yes.
Give us one example of that.
Well, one would be Sister Margaret Sheets, who was teaching math at Mooney and computers, and she saw a documentary, God Bless the Child, of a homeless woman. And she presented that to the leadership team, and she was supported. And she just said she found a house. She believed that the money would come if she kept moving. And we moved from one house now to 4 buildings on the north side, 1 on the west side. And also we were invited to Trumbull County and Ashtabula County because of the need at our times for responding to the needs of homeless women and children. And it's
isn't that
been
the call,
25 years now.
Isn't that the call of consecrated religious life, to really respond to the needs? Because while most religious communities retain their charism throughout the centuries, sometimes that changes. Mm-hmm. But yet there's the spark of what it was intended to be is always there, but that continues to change. How have you seen that charism maybe not change, but maybe grow?
I think in her writings, Angela said to us, her followers, if the times need it, change with them. And that's what we've tried to do. And I think we've been very blessed in starting out as teachers, because in a teaching order, there are many transferable skills. We've learned to do a lot of things. One of the things that I think Sister Norma mentioned earlier, the schools have made many connections for us. And the people that we've educated, the people that we've worked with, have certainly been a blessing to us as we ventured into these new areas. And they've helped us with their expertise, their time, their treasure, and it's been a blessing for us.
We're going to talk more about that in a moment, but we're going to take a quick break. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Doesn't your child deserve the best education possible? Then you should consider a Catholic school where strong academics are offered in a safe, disciplined environment, where education is deeply rooted in the religious teachings of our Catholic faith, where graduation rates are exceptional, where outstanding teachers help your child reach his or her fullest potential in the classroom and in life. But you should consider a Catholic school for the most important reason of all. Your child is worth it.
I spent 34 years as a teacher.
For the first 10 minutes of teaching, I was terrified. And then I fell in love with it.
I am so grateful that teaching was my ministry. It was such a gift.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay.
One year, I had a classroom of 68 children.
I was chaplain for the ice hockey team and loved it. Even the 6:30 a.m. practices.
Today, hundreds of religious communities lack retirement funds.
I loved helping the kids stage musicals.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more.
Back then, we didn't earn much, but seeing a child learn was really priceless.
Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Donate at your local parish.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We're talking with Sister Norma Raupple and Sister Regina Rogers, Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown. When we took a little break, prior to that, we talked about young women who are really maybe interested in the community. And I know that vocations nowadays is a crucial element in the life of our church. We know that we are experiencing fewer priests, fewer religious women, and so there's a tremendous effort in the church today, and especially locally, for us to pray and foster those vocations. So tell us, Sister Norma, what your community is doing in particular to foster vocations among young women.
Well, we Ursulines really believe that we have a wonderful life together in responding like all people are called to do, to live the gospel fully. And we really invite young women. The median age today, some studies shows, is actually 30 years old for new members. And in the future, there will be more diversity among the different ethnic immigrant communities, and also more diversified in professional backgrounds. Whereas, as Sister Regina mentioned earlier, most of us were professional teachers, and our educational background was in education. But we invite women of all professions who believe in growing in their relationship with Jesus, living and proclaiming gospel values, to just get to know us and see what our life is like.
And how does that enhance the local community of Ursulines by having a diverse group and having perhaps women coming as a second career? What does that do for your community?
I think it really has helped us to experience different prayer styles. It brings different conversation to the table. It has enhanced our lives. And I think going out into the world, it gives us a better idea of people today and where they're at and what their concerns are. Now, in our community, the thing that's happened is Sister Norma has brought in a lot of younger women, and it's been exciting to be around the Mother House with women who are in their 20s and 30s. But Sister Norma can talk more about that.
I'm sure it's a wonderful experience.
We do encourage young people, especially in the summer, for students who are away at college during the year and come back to Youngstown. We offer internships, service learning programs every summer beginning May 18th for 6 weeks until June 25th. And seasonally, we also offer weekend retreats each season, which we call them discernment retreat weekends, because we just have Sister Regina tells her vocation story, and we have other young adults talk about discernment in their lives, how to get to know yourself and get to focus more on your relationship with God to see how those two things mesh. And possibly there's a call to God, from God to them, that this really would be the life, the way of love that would really make them happy.
Well, I would think also it's not only encouraging and fostering a vocation, but it's an encouraging internal spiritual holistic growth in that individual.
Yes.
So whether they respond to the call or not, you have done something to instill within them this whatever it is that will make them better. And that's your experience as well?
That's very true.
And I think the other program that Sister Norma has started is she goes into the different colleges, Youngstown State, Walsh, Hiram, and presents religious life as an alternative to, looking at the business world or some, other lifestyle, so that people can be thinking about maybe it is for me.
We actually have a whole committee called Young Adult Outreach, where we include John Carroll, Kent, Akron, So we really are just trying to use opportunities like this one that we're very grateful for to get the word out about who we are and what a viable and fulfilling way of life.
You know, and it is important to get the word out. And, you know, sometimes we can do that in very simple ways, but sometimes it's important to be aggressive in our approach. I think especially nowadays in the church with the situation that we're in with vocations. And so that is okay to do that. I think another aspect that I'd like us to briefly talk about before we conclude this second segment is that spirit of collaboration with other religious communities, you know, because that's happened across the country. And that really is important and crucial. Has that been your experience?
I think before Vatican II, communities really stayed to themselves. And since Vatican II, we've been very fortunate to collaborate with other religious communities, particularly the ones in our area. Presently, we've been collaborating with the Humility of Mary Sisters. We collaborate with the Cleveland Ursulines, and it's nice. It's nice to share gifts and talents with each other. So it really has been very positive. It's nice to go into a room of sisters and know them personally.
Sure. And I would imagine, Sister Norma, with bringing the young women in to discern a vocation, that you teach and share that spirit of collaboration, because that's really what drives us in the church today. Isn't that true?
Yes, that is true. And they often visit more than one congregation. But in the future, there will be fewer men and women in the consecrated life. So they are more than ever going to need the support and the networking among the different orders. And I think that's one thing that Pope Francis asked us to do in his letter. And I think we're doing that. And I think we also see the need for that. But we can still grow in it.
What would, and we just got about a minute or two left before we take another break. What would be your hope for a young woman coming in to discern religious life now? What do you want to ask them, or what would you ask them to think about?
I think the first thing I would ask them to think about is, what are they really passionate about? Because once you realize what you're passionate about, that's what you're willing to give your life to. And so hopefully women who are thinking about religious life are passionate about their relationship with God and their desire to serve others. Mm-hmm. So I think that those would be the first two things I would be interested in.
Quickly, what would you like to ask
And
them?
to get to know themselves and be the best person that in their own unique gifts and their own interests. And then, because joining their lives in with others, we all bring our gifts, and hopefully we can bring out the best in each other.
We're going to talk a little bit more in particular about the Ursuline community, and also as you celebrate 140 years here, we certainly want to lift that up as well. But we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back in a moment.
Light Moments. Here's Father Tom McSweeney.
Baseball is one of America's favorite pastimes. Spending a day at the ballpark, eating hot dogs, and singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" during the 7th inning stretch never goes out of style. But did you ever wonder how the 7th inning stretch got started? Back in the 1880s, Brother Jasper Brennan was the baseball coach at Manhattan College. He was also the Dean of Discipline. When students attended baseball games, they were careful to sit quietly so that Brother Jasper wouldn't take them to task. During one game, Brother Jasper noticed that his students were especially fidgety, so he told them to stand up and move around. The popularity of the 7th inning stretch spread and soon became a national standard. Maybe an idea of yours will do the same someday. Remember, in order to hit a home run, you have to keep on slugging.
This message from the Christophers, New York, New York, 10017.
I am Marino. Yo soy Marino.
Marino, an American Catholic organization of priests and brothers, has been reaching out to those in need for nearly 100 years in 26 countries throughout the world. Missioners, workers, volunteers, supporters, we are all Marino.
I'm Father Mike, and I am Marino.
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 Welcome back to our show. I'm talking with Sister Regina Rogers and Sister Norma Raupple from the Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown. We know that Pope Francis declared a year celebrating consecrated life. Give us a brief history about that, and what did the Pope actually say about it?
If I would encourage anybody who hasn't read it to go read it. It is a beautiful, uplifting, and challenging letter to the church as a whole about the importance of religious life, the gift that religious life is to the church, and a challenge to us to live joy-filled, service-filled lives. So it's a beautiful letter.
And what exactly did Pope Francis say that incited you or the Ursulines?
Pope Francis really reminded us to really continue to be grateful, and we are, for St. Angela, for our past, but to live passionately in the future, to really continue to wake up the world in our prophetic witness to the gospel values. And he really, it's like he's always challenging the whole world to respond to the people at the margins, at the periphery. And we have in our new ministries of HIV/AIDS outreach, Beatitude House, Dorothy Day House, I feel that we're doing exactly what Francis is asking us to do, but we can always improve in that. He also really challenges us and admires us for our community way of life, but challenges us to be better at it and include more people, to widen our circles and be present and respect the dignity and the gifts of all people in all different congregations, lay people, clergy, and to help build the church.
You had mentioned about being grateful for the past, which is important because that's where we came from, and so we need to remember that, but we can't live in the past. But then to look for the future is also important because we have to plan for that. But perhaps the most important thing is living in the present. So what in the present right now are the Ursulines celebrating? For example, you probably have a lot of wonderful volunteers. There might be someone that's listening today that thought about it but never really took the initiative to get involved with the Ursulines. What are some opportunities that they could have? Sister Regina?
I think one of the things that's happened, people have seen the declining numbers in religious life as a negative, and it is. But on the other hand, we have attracted many more volunteers, many more associates to the community. So rather than our community, in the broad sense of community, getting smaller, ours has gotten larger thanks to our associates, people who have given to us, been generous to us. So one of the things we have to be very grateful for are the people who continue to support us, both in our ministries and financially and with their prayers, who join us, for example, for celebrations that we have. We're very, very blessed with the people who have been part of our lives.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that there are young women that come under your tutelage, Sister Norma, who try to discern a vocation that might be instilled to want to give back to the Ursuline community, even if they choose not to become a religious sister. So what would you encourage them to do or to be aware of when they come in an associate program with you?
Well, I think just build relationships with us, get to know us, and give us a chance to get to know them, and be part of the community aspect. But also, like in our nonprofits, there are committees, there are boards, and we have several associates now who are in leadership positions at Beatitude House, in our HIV/AIDS outreach. So they grow with us. They get to know Angela, and they're challenged by the gospel as we are. We support them also. It's a mutual kind of relationship in their involvement in their parishes, in their outreach to the poor, in their own circles. So it's a very reciprocal type of relationship.
And of course, today you're celebrating this year 140 years. What was significant about the anniversary?
I'm not really sure that, other than the fact that we have been rooted here in the Mahoning Valley and have been committed to the Mahoning Valley for 140 years, I think we found that very significant, that our primary responsibility has been to the church in Youngstown, and I think we've maintained that over these 140 years.
If someone is listening and would like to get more information, is there a phone number or website? What can they do to contact the Ursuline community?
We have a website, so I would tell them to go to our website, Youngstown Ursulines, and they can get a lot of information about us. They can write in. We have a sister who really does a beautiful job of keeping the website updated. Also, we have our Facebook page. So we've really moved into technology. So, yes. And we would welcome visitors anytime if they would like to come to our mother house on Shields Road. There, the doors are open. One of the gifts I think that the Ursulines do bring is the gift of hospitality, and we want people to know that they are welcome. If they have a need that they would like us to pray for, if they call us or email us, we would certainly add that to our prayers. So,
and what would St. Angela Merici say today to you Ursuline sisters?
I think she would just encourage us to keep living the gospel values, but to continue to support and love each other as we're doing that. And she's always told us to have Jesus as your one and only treasure. Always take your refuge at the feet of Jesus. So she would keep us focused, but going out beyond ourselves, but going out together as sisters.
And Sister Regina, one final word to the folks that are with us that you'd like to say to them about the Ursuline community.
My final word would be, I think religious life is a wonderful way to spend your life, and I would encourage people to enter into conversation about it with young women that they might know. I would also want to say thank you very much to all of those people who over these 140 years have supported us and walked with us in our journey.
Well, Sister Regina Rogers, Sister Norma Raupple, we want to thank you for your presence on our show today. I am a product of the Ursuline Sisters from Immaculate Conception School and Church, and also Ursuline High School, and I thank you for giving that to me, and we hope that we can continue to give back to the Ursulines for the wonderful ministry that you provide over the years and will continue to do in the future.
Oh, thank you for having us.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
Spotlight has been a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. Your program host was Father James Corda.